Welcome to this video on finding the second purchase date with LOD expressions. You can download the exercise workbook to follow along in your own copy of Tableau. A common need in analytics is to determine the date a second event happens. When a customer made a second purchase, a student was absent for a second time, etc. In Tableau, this is achieved using level of detail expressions. For this video, we want to answer the question, what percentage of customers made a second purchase within 6 months of the first? To evaluate, we need to break it down into component parts. We need to know the first order date. We need to know the second order date. We need to determine if the second order date is less than 6 months out from the first. And finally, we need to determine the percentage of customers for which that condition is true. To determine the first order date, we'll use an LOD expression. For each customer, we want the earliest order date, or in LOD syntax, fixed to the level of customer ID, we want the minimum order date. Right-click in the data pane and select Create Calculated Field. We'll name it First Order Date, and the formula will be fixed customer ID colon minimum of order date. If we bring first order date to our table, set it to be exact date, and change it to be discrete, we'll see that for each customer, it's repeating the date of the earliest order across all rows. This is exactly what we want. The second order date is a bit trickier. Essentially, what we need to do is look at each order date for each customer and determine if it happened after the first order date. And of those orders, we want the minimum. So we'll create a new calculation, and we'll write it slightly out of order so it matches how we think about it. Is the order date after greater than the first order date? If so, we need that date returned to us so we can keep using the value. So we'll type if order date is greater than first order date, then we want the order date. And we'll close with end. This will return a value for all orders after the first one. We only want the earliest of these, which would be the second order date. So we'll wrap this entire expression in a minimum. And don't forget the parentheses. But we want this recalculated for each customer. That's where LOD expressions come in. We want this minimum per customer, so we'll fix it to customer ID. Let's name this second order date, and we'll bring it out into the view. Again, we want it to be the exact date and discrete. This is just for our viewing purposes for the video. For customers with only one order, second order date is null. For customers with additional orders, the second order date is repeated for each row. This is perfect. Now that we have both the first and second order date per customer, we could be done. But our original question involved how many of our customers made repeat purchases within 6 months. To solve that, we'll need to compare our dates. Create a calculated field, and we'll name it months to second purchase. To find the difference between two dates, we'll use the dateDiff function. First, we need to tell Tableau what date part we care about, days, years. In this case, we want months, and the word month needs to be set in quotes. Then a comma, then our first date. We'll drag out first order date from the data pane. then another comma, and we'll drag out our ending date, or second order date, and close the parentheses. If we bring months to second purchase to columns, we'll see that many of our customers take far longer than 6 months to repurchase. But this is just a small subset of the data, so let's keep going. Let's build a calculation that will bucket customers for us. We want to know if they did not make a second purchase at all, if they made a second purchase within 6 months, or if it took longer than 6 months for the second purchase. We'll create a calculated field, name it Repeat Purchasing, and we'll enter if months to second purchase is greater than 6, then more than 6 months. Else if months to second purchase is less than 6, then within 6 months. Else, no second purchase. And we'll finish with end. If we bring this calculation into the view, we see, yep, it's working appropriately. Now we're fully set up to answer our original question about what % of customers purchase again within 6 months. Create a new sheet, bring repeat purchases to rows, and right-click drag Customer ID to columns, and select Count Distinct. Now we see the raw numbers of how many customers fall into each of these categories. If we bring up the Pills drop-down menu and add a quick table calculation for % of total, and turn on Mark Labels, we see that, oh dear, only 8% of our customers make a second purchase within 6 months, and a whopping 68, almost 69% don't purchase again at all. Clearly, we have work to do. Thank you for watching this how-to training video on finding the date of a second event with LOD expressions. We invite you to continue with the free training videos to learn more about using Tableau.